Welcome back to another IPS Take, and today we're talking NC State football. The season is almost here. I have Alex G with me tonight. Alex, we're talking NC State football confidence levels. Most, least. Hey, let's jump into it. I'll let you go first. What are you most confident about the NC State football heading into the 2025 season? I'll try and pick something different than you two.
Yeah, we can have some fun with this. I have a no-brainer,
Okay.
and then I have one
All right.
that's kind of like a sleeper confident level. But we'll start with
There
these.
you go.
And for me, I think I am incredibly confident in what the tight end position is going to do for NC State. I think last time we chatted, we had a conversation of who we thought was the best player on the team. Was it Jacarius Peak? Was it Justin Joly? Was it Brandon Cleveland? And I think we kind of landed on, in my opinion, you kind of got like a 1A, 1B situation, Jacarius Peak, Justin Joly. But I think Justin Joly is probably the best player on the team. I think what he gives you at tight end, not a lot of teams in the country have that. Like, when he came in, we talked him up. I mean, he's essentially a wide receiver playing tight end, right? Not a lot of guys have that body type, the body control, the athleticism, the speed, the hands. I mean, he attacks the football with his hands, makes contested catches, breaks tackles. He does a lot of stuff that you don't expect tight ends to do well. And it's funny, early in the season, our question mark with him, and I think it came to fruition probably I'd probably say the first 8 weeks, kind of off the top of my head, said he wasn't a great run blocker. And I think, between the three of us, including Philip, we had a lot of frustrations with like, well, why are we asking him to do that as much?
Mhm.
Right. Like, it didn't fit, that's kind of square peg round hole. And to his credit, later in the season, they did a lot of good stuff. And honestly, to Robert and I's credit, later in the season, they did a lot of stuff that involved him in the run game, but it was more backside, right? Like some backside cutoffs, not point of attack where you're relying on him to set the line of scrimmage and not allow the play to get blown up and essentially be the lead blocker. So when you flip that and you run away from him, but you still have to account for that gap with a cutback, he got a lot better as a run blocker. I expected him to improve this year as well, because I've heard coaches say, I've heard him talk about it. Like that's a point of emphasis for him. And if he wants to play in the NFL for a long time, he's going to have to block. The tight end position, that's what it's morphed into in the NFL. You get, your George Kittles of the world, Samuel Porter's, like those guys they're good blockers as well as really dynamic downfield receivers. But I really believe in the tight end position, and it's not just because of him. We brought in Cody Hardy. 6'5"? Yeah. Probably, I'd imagine he probably plays around 260 this year. He's essentially an offensive tackle that can also go downfield and make some plays in the intermediate passing game. And a guy that came on late last year, called touchdown against UNC, if I'm not mistaken, Dante Daniels. We talked about him in the preseason. I kind of, thumbed up a little bit at some folks that were like, I think he's going to be a dominant run blocker. And I was like, I'm not sure yet. Coming from the JUCO ranks, that's a hard thing to acclimate yourself to, and blocking, an early SEC defense in Tennessee and some really strong ACC defenses. I thought he would help State as a pass catcher first and foremost. That's what jumped off the film for me when he was coming out of JUCO, and that showed itself a little later in the season. What's State listed at 6'6", 270? I mean, that body with his ability to high point. I guarantee you, I'd love if you ever get a chance to interview him for Elite Plus or something, to ask him what his favorite dunk is to do in basketball, because I guarantee you he can bang in the paint and finish around the rim and throw down some dunks, because he shows a knack for playing in the air and having some good body control. So, I mean, those are three guys that, I'm not going to say that if State went into the season like with just Cody Hardy and Dante Daniels, I would be stoked about the tight end position. But the fact that those guys are your 2 and your 3, and what they offer you, Cody Hardy in the run game and Dante Daniels kind of is like a both. He can help you in the pass game, and he can help you in the run game. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. I know it irks you sometimes for me to say this, but I think Joly and Hardy can play on the field at the same time together, because you can put Justin Joly in the slot and have Cody Hardy line up in the backfield as a lead blocker, as an inline tight end. That changes the way defense is set to play. I'm not saying you do that all the time, but to have that in your pocket as a changeup, it gives you a lot of offensive flexibility. So yeah, I'm really, really confident and excited about the tight end position.
Yeah, it doesn't really irk me when I think the other guy can play. And I don't mean that
right?
to offend, right, to offend anybody who's been asked to play before. But to your point, that's the reason to be excited about a tight end position. We know what you have, Justin Joly. You have potentially the best tight end in the ACC. But last year, it felt like, Alex, a lot of times we were complaining during our walkthrough afterwards and going through the film and different things like that at the wasted opportunities at those other spots behind him, not just him, but the other tight end spots and what they were being asked to do. And I think you're right. Dante, a year later, is probably, we would agree, should be better, should be more settled in. And then you add in Cody Hardy, who you figure could soak up all of those two tight end set snaps that you do want to run, because you know this, they're going to want to run some 12 personnel for sure, 30, whatever person. They're going to want to run two tight ends at times. And so I think that's the way, that's the reason to be optimistic. I'm with you. For me, though, I'm going to go the totality of the skill positions. I feel like when you add in what you have in Hollywood Smothers, what we think you've got at the wide receiver position, and you've already mentioned a tight end position, I can't recall a collection this strong. I mean, you go back to 2017, maybe, when you had the Samuels, Harmon, Hines,
that's kind of what I'm thinking.
Myers. Yeah, I mean, I think that group. I mean, I even think this group's better than you go to 2021 when you had the Thayer and Emeka group.
They were more
because of what you got in
consistent, like possession guys versus the explosion, right? Yeah,
and the excitement I have for it is we've thinned out all these rooms.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you go to running back. Okay, you can't help but feature Hollywood Smothers right now going into the year. Right now, as long as he can ride it, you can ride him and you can feature him. But behind him, you don't have a Kendrick Raphael like last year. Like, what did we talk all offseason? Jordan Waters is going to be your bell cow. Where you had Kendrick Raphael returning, who they wanted to get snaps for. We didn't even factor Hollywood in, and then he ends up having his season. Well, this year you got a redshirt freshman, Duke Scott, who he's going to, I'm sure, earn a role. But you're not trying to figure out a way to get him snaps. Go to the wide receiver room. Kevin Concepcion moves on. Dakari Collins moves on. Two really good players. Not knocking the players, but less is more. Right? Like, I think that if you can get this to 4 or 5 wideouts and you're subbing them in, you're playing them, you're going to get better production. And you know how it works. Man, you don't make all conference by having a great wide receiver room. You have great wide receivers.
That's right. That's right.
Right? You need great wide receivers, and the opportunity has to be there. So for me, I think the addition by subtraction in the running back and wide receiver rooms has me so confident in what they put on the field. Like, I was talking about this with Bryant, my partner here, and my business partner, by the way. Let me clarify that. My business partner, Bryant, about the wide receiver room, because he was asking me, he was like, well, you sure they won't do this or that? I was like, man, if I told you any of those 4 wide receivers they put on the field, would you be upset? No. Right?
That's
not
exactly
at all.
What I was thinking. Yeah. If Terrell Anderson beats out Wesley Grimes, okay.
Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. I think Terrell Anderson's really good. Kenan Jackson's really good.
Good player. Yep.
Yeah. And so I am so confident in the skill positions that I think offensively it's going to be all eyes on C.J. Bailey. It really is, because he's got the weapons there. I think you're like me, probably a little more confident in the offensive line than maybe others are. I think the O-line is going to be fine. And so it's going to be on him to take a step this year and lead this offense.
Without a doubt. I mean, and I think, to your point, thinning it out, I do think that Kurt Roper, and I haven't done all of the research yet. Admittedly, I was, saving it for when we get into August and we start doing the positional breakdowns, really. But off the top of my head, and what Philip and I looked at when Roper was announced, I believe it was late December, early January. We went back and looked at specifically the Duke teams. Like Jameson Crowder didn't come off the field. Like they had a handful of receivers that put up big numbers, and pretty much they played 3 guys. And that's. You just went back to 17 NC State, 2021, 2018, even 2016. Like you think of those rooms, right? Jacoby Myers, Kelvin Harmon, Steph Lewis, like those guys played. Jalen Samuels, they didn't come off the field, and because of that, you point to the stat thing, like the opportunity arises. Like Emeka Meza didn't come off the field. There's a reason that the NC State's catch record has been broken twice in the past 4 or 5 years, right? Didn't Jacoby Myers break it, and then Mezzi broke, or Mezzi broke Torrey Holt's record. I guess Jacoby got close. if I'm not mistaken. But like, there's a reason State has featured guys that have had 80, 90 catch seasons. It's because it's because they were featured. So I think that's a really acute point, and it's something that I honestly I do look forward to that. I mean, nothing bothered me more last season than being a no huddle team that constantly substituted. Like that frustrated me. That, you know, the benefits of no huddle, I don't care. And I think a lot of people are aligned in this. I don't necessarily care to see State go lightning fast, snap the ball every 12 seconds. I don't care. I hate to watch State line up with 9 seconds left and the ref's still standing over the ball because with his arms out, because the other team still gets a chance to sub, right? To match your substitution. Just, you know, stay in 11. Okay. Live in that for a while. If, you know, you get to a 3rd and 1, you feel like you need to go to 12. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And you get a first down, maybe stay in 12 for a play or two. Like, see where you live, see what, you know, make the defense react to you a little bit more, and adjust to your personnel versus running guys in and out all the time. And it's just, you can't get in a rhythm.
I'm with you. Let's do it. Least confident. What are you least confident in right now with NC State?
So I could go a couple ways here. I think I'll leave you. Well, I'm going to say the right side of the offensive line, or the like center right guard, really specifically for me offensively. And that's, I don't want people to hear this the wrong way. I've written this a few times in posts. I think on paper, this is the least confident I've been in an NC State offensive line. It's funny you said what you said just a second ago, and I'm gonna land this plane. That doesn't mean I'm not confident in this group. I just think State has had underrated, really good offensive line play the last few seasons, especially in terms of pass protection. And, you know, I'm extremely confident in Ja'Carri's Peak. I'm extremely confident in Anthony Carter, and I'm pretty confident in Teague Anderson. I think he's going to be a really good player. I think there's potential for center right guard to be good, and for this to be a really good offensive line group for NC State. But that question mark is there to me. And I think there's a reason that, you know, in your conversations recently, your IPS and 5s, your IPS takes, you've mentioned Jakeem Grant, you've mentioned Spike. There hadn't been a lot of talk about the right guard spot. I assume it's probably going to be Val Erickson. Maybe it's Kamen Smith. You know, there's those two, you know, those are two guys that you hear a lot of good things about. Kamen played late in the season last year and looked pretty good. Val didn't look great, but you could see the reason why State likes him, why 2J likes him. But I think that's, you know, as much as we need CJ Bailey to be good, he needs to be protected up the middle, and center right guard's a spot that could do it. To me, it's a toss up. I'm curious where you're going to go with this. The other thing would be health at linebacker and Caden Fordham's health for me, but I'll let you take it where you want to take it.
Yeah, I think you're right. There are a couple questions there on the offensive line. I just trust in, and honestly, the development there. I think they're going to figure it out. I think they've got the options to where they can figure it out. Yeah. Defensively, I'm probably a little higher on the defense than some others. For me, it is still, though, I question the upside. My concern is the upside in the secondary, right? Like, do you have playmakers back there? Because, look, you know how this game's turned to where there's a lot of 50-50 balls that decide ball games. And you got to be able to make one-on-one plays. You can try and cover it up scheme-wise and pressure and all those different things, but balls in the air, guys have to make plays. And I just wonder, do they have those guys back there?
So we're thinking probably, if we had to guess, Devin Marshall's going to start. That's probably locked. Brian Nelson probably is a lock starter at corner opposite of him, with some competition from Jackson Vick. JJ Johnson, I think he's got to play, right? You know, and then we're talking some freshmen coming into the mix here, or some, I guess, redshirt freshmen: Ronnie Royal, Brody Barnhart. Some slept on names. You know, Hinton's back. It's a questionable group, but I think there's a chance for them to be boringly good, which I think is kind of roundabout making your point, right? Like, how good can that group be if they're boring, right? How many big plays on balls do you need those guys to make for you to really swing a game versus how much bend don't break can you afford to play to win?
I'm with you. I think they're going to have to figure it out. I know there's question marks on the defense. The thing I like is they brought in options,
Mm-hmm.
and at all three levels. And they didn't just say, "Hey, we'll be fine. We have," and I'm not names in terms of players I don't like, but we have Travali Price and Isaiah Shirley, so we're good on the defensive line. Or we have Kamal Bonner, we're fine at linebacker. No, they went out and got AJ Richardson, Keon Sloan, Trey Thomas up front, even the secondary. J.J. Thompson, Jamel Johnson, guys like that, Jared Sensabaugh, who can come in and potentially play. And I think for me, when I look at the success NC State's had over the last few years out of the portal, Alex, they've been able to unearth some guys like that.
Mm-hmm.
You go all the way back to Robert Kennedy from Old Dominion. I mean, he came in and was plug and play at nickel.
Yep.
We didn't have a ton of expectation for him. DK Kaufman last year. Mm-hmm. You mentioned Devon Marshall. I mean, to Marcus Cooley. These were not high-profile, big-name portal gets. These were actually just dart throws.
Yeah.
And they found them and they hit it.
Yeah, and the profiles I like the most were Robert Kennedy and Devin Marshall because at their prior stops at Old Dominion for Robert Kennedy and Villanova for Devin Marshall, they produced and they were good football players there. Now, maybe they weren't good enough statistically or impact wise to lure, I don't know, South Carolina or an SEC program to come want to take a shot on them. But to me, I know you agree. That's the lane for State, man. Like that's Brian Nelson, right? Was he first or second team All AAC? Transferring over from first team. It's North Texas, right? That's his previous school.
Yep.
Like that to me, that's a no brainer. Like that they can play. Like this is coming from a guy who played FCS ball, and I think the stereotype that everybody likes to say is the difference is on the lines, which is true. But the difference is the depth mostly. Like you could find guys that play to the FCS level that can really, really, really freaking play. And if you had 7 picks at North Texas, and that's not the FCS level, obviously it's a step above. If you have 7 picks at North Texas, that could easily translate. Is it 7? Maybe not. Is it 5? That's a great season. I would love to have that for my corner.
Look, when you go into transfer portal, check the box all conference.
That's a great box to check.
When you start to filter, when you start to filter players, AJ Richardson.
Kareem Richardson was the basketball coach. AJ Richardson, that's right. Yeah.
When you start to search, check all conference. You typically will do okay if you check it, regardless of level.
Yep.
And I think NC State, Keon Sloan was all conference at Utah State, Jamel Johnson, J.J. Johnson, AJ Richardson. You mentioned Brian Nelson. They brought in guys who check that box. I'm fascinated to see how we look at this defense at the end of the year. Because I think it's possible we look back and say, you know what, we had some guys when we were worried about not really having guys because of where they came from.
I think there's a chance, man. And I tell you, I'm kind of referencing Todd Lyon's sheet here just because I still think age matters. Like I know you guys talk basketball all the time. Like State's average age this year for the starting lineup in hoops is going to be plus 22. Like it's going to be big.
Yeah.
You start going down it, right? Like J.J. Johnson, 5th year. Devin Marshall, 4th-year guy, Sean Brown, Caden Fordham. These are all seniors. Travali Price, Harsh, Sloan, Cleveland. Like these guys are old players. Like they've been around, they've seen it, they've played a lot of football. And even the guys transferring in, you're talking 3rd and 4th-year guys. Even like Brian Nelson, I think he's a redshirt sophomore. So he's a 3rd-year player, 20 going on 21 years old, if I had to guess. Like that makes a difference when you're competing. Like, I know that the conversation has been pretty loud around transfer portal versus recruiting. The truth is always probably in the middle. But if you're going to go up against some of these 5-star recruits from Clemson, I know State doesn't play Clemson this year, but Miami, they're going to recruit well out of high school. Well, didn't Will Wade have the quote the other day, like a 4-star senior is probably as good as a 5-star freshman, right? Like, like let's get into that. I'd say in football, that's probably more true, honestly. Like a recruited 3-star player that has had 3 years of strength and conditioning and has played, 1,000 snaps is going to be a lot better off than your second year redshirt freshman. Look, like Noah Rogers flashed last year and probably would have flashed with more opportunity, but we saw some struggle too. And part of that's because he's 19 years old. Even if he went to Ohio State, top 40 recruit, like I get it, but that's why you would expect him to make a huge leap now, right? Because he's got another year of development. Like that's still what this sport is. This is probably the most physically, it is the most physically demanding sport. Basketball, Cooper Flagg can graduate early and dominate at 17 years old just because that's hoops.
NC State football, least confident, most confident. Feels like, Alex, we're pretty confident, but we labeled the confident guys. I'm a little confident here. That's okay. Hey, shouldn't you be confident going into July with whatever teams you cover or follow? Typically, most fans, you get to July, you get pretty confident, you get pretty excited, optimistic.
Always should be, man. It's a lot more fun to look at it from this perspective than the other one.
I'm with you. So hope you all enjoyed it. If you haven't done so yet, please subscribe here to the channel at Inside Pack Sports on YouTube. And also check out the website, www.insidepacksports.com, for the latest coverage of NC State athletics.